Good morning. I'd like to welcome everybody to our January 30th Planning Commission meeting. And I'd like to call this meeting to order and ask Craig Pitt to say a word of prayer for us.
Let's start with prayer. Father, you are so good to us and you bless us abundantly. You provide for us. And Lord, we see your hand, the resources that you provide to this county. We see how you move amongst your people here, Father, how you protect us. You provide for every need that we have. You give men who have dedicated themselves to public service, you give them what they need to be able to make good and wise decisions. I pray, Father, that the wisdom and the discernment that's available to them today would be poured out on them abundantly, that they will feel your presence and the influence of the Spirit. Father, I pray that we would know today that we are participating in our government that is a good government, that looks out for the best interests of every citizen here. Father, we should not take any of that for granted, and we don't. I thank you, Lord, for our men and women that protect us every day, emergency operations, our sheriff, Father, our deputies, Father, the folks that look out for the safety and the security of this place we call home. What a blessing it is to be served so well in Christ's name today.
Amen. I got approval of January 6 minutes.
Motion approved.
Second.
Brad made a motion, Steve seconded the motion. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Old business, got any old business? No old business, all right. New consideration.
Yes, sir. Our first item under new considerations is Roy Anderson. He's seeking a conditional use permit to place up to 5 additional rental homes on Kirsten Way. This is a 16-acre parcel that is zoned RE1. Here's an aerial view of the property. Mr. Anderson was granted approval for a conditional use permit to place the rental homes on the property in July of 2010. He did not proceed with utilizing this approval, and as a result, the permit expired. He is now seeking a new conditional use permit to move forward with his plans. This is an aerial, or this is a view of the property, I'm sorry.
Is that on Holly Bush?
It's on Kirsten. Off. Yeah, yeah, that is off. Adams, yeah.
It's off of Adams at the end.
Mhm.
At the end, yes, sir.
We can go back to that
I know
aerial.
where it's at.
Yeah. And we've got some surrounding properties here.
What size houses?
Show it again. Oh, they're scattered in there pretty.
Yeah, I'm talking about what he's wanting to be.
He hasn't proposed house sizes. But I think he's here today.
It would be 1400 square feet.
What is Kirsten? Is that private?
Yeah.
It's a private drive.
Yes. It comes off with Adams and moves around in there and services several driveways.
Now, in 2018, we adopted our development ordinance, which is radically different than the state of the world in 2010 when this was first considered. So we spend a lot of time, effort, and energy on the staff side of the house and our engineers working with us to make sure that we have adequate accesses to all properties that emergency response is likely to have to get to at some point. So whenever we start subdividing and basically creating subdivisions, we're pretty aggressive about making sure that the condition and the state of any public road that leads to that subdivision is adequate, and then any private road, according to our development ordinance, any private drive that will serve multiple properties is gonna have to be brought up to our standards as a part of the development. So Kirsten's gonna have to be completely overhauled, in my opinion, as a consideration for approving any sort of residential development in this area. I don't know if the developer, the property owner, has considered the cost of.
Mr. Anderson, you mind coming forward? And just state your name and address for the record.
Roy Anderson, 470 Oakdale Road.
Who maintains the current road out there now that's leading to all the homes?
I do.
Okay.
So do you own all the property on that road?
On Kirsten, yes.
Which one is Kirsten?
The one that turns to the right.
How big are the lots? I heard you say there's, what, 16 acres?
It's just a 16-acre parcel.
Yeah, how big would each parcel be per house that you want?
2 acres.
2 acres?
And part of that 16 is, there's a gas right away through there, so part of it won't be able to be used.
Right.
And
So-
the driveway actually is gonna go down the, right away where the power line is.
Right.
Does the garbage run down Kristen Road, or does it, everybody brings their
Bring
garbage
it to
out?
Adams.
Brings it out to Adams.
So are your neighbors gonna be okay with you doing this?
Yeah.
'Cause that'll be huge when it gets to the public hearing, you know?
Right.
I mean, because you're gonna create a lot of garbage being brought out to the end of the road with dogs or animals getting into it. I don't know, I don't get those calls out there, but.
Well, at this point,
We
we don't have a lot to make a decision on. I think the biggest hurdle is you get with Craig and Mike Harrison, our road manager, and see what hurdles you're gonna have in front of you as far as getting to the property. The drive getting to the property has, I think we ought to handle that before anything else, because until we get that situation solved.
Because, I mean, you're gonna have people that reach out to us or Mr. Gaines and say, hey, can we make that a school bus turnaround where the school bus can go down that road? Cause you don't know who you're gonna rent those houses to. They could have 2 or 3 kids that need to be picked up, and
Yep.
and a lot of times they don't wanna send their kids all the way down to Adams down there and stand on the side of Adams to get picked up if they on the very end down there, if it's raining or whatever. So they gonna want a school bus to come down that road, and
Okay. Probably can make it down to right there. But let's just, instead of wasting time and talking about everything that could be a problem, I would suggest get an engineer or somebody to draw up your private road and get with that guy over there and Mike Harrison, the road manager, and y'all come up with a plan, because until we get to that point, there's no need in talking about the rest of it. If we get to that point, I think we can probably work something out on the other. I mean, I'm not gonna hold you up over where you put your garbage can, because y'all, I know out there how it is.
Well, my question is then, what's the difference in the last approval that I got and getting it approved now?
15 years.
A lot.
15 years.
There's a,
Right, a lot of
The
changes.
landscape hasn't changed at all. has it?
oh yeah, it
Yes, sir.
has.
All of the rules are different.
All the housing that's between you and Holly
And
Bush,
Holly Bush.
there's lots of, they had to upgrade. And they're gonna look back there and say, how come he didn't have to do what we did? I mean, it's been 100,000 people move in here from other places into Rankin County, and it's causing congestion. I mean, we have every stoplight, every stop sign, and so we have to plan better for the transportation.
And that's the main thing, is the road issue. You know, if you got emergency vehicles, there's a fire down there, you know, getting to the houses and the property, you know.
Well, that's the driveway right there.
Right.
And it would be, of course, it had to be made longer to accommodate the other.
Yep.
But
Craig, I would like to have y'all include the fire department in y'all's conversation as well, because I'm familiar with this, because towards the end of my career in the fire service, I ran a call at that intersection you're looking at right now, and it was a very narrow, not very usable space.
We really can't put a
Well,
fully loaded.
our own road was where you couldn't hardly run a fire truck, and we did upgrade it some. When that new subdivision went in, we required that developer to do some work and make that road a little bit more passable.
That's right. Your development ordinance
Yeah,
provides that even public
they
roads-
had to do it.
That's correct.
Uh,
The developer can be responsible for improvements to a public road.
Yep.
As a byproduct of development activity. Don't forget, there's gonna be construction activity
Right,
associated with
yeah,
all of this.
yep.
Which means potentially concrete trucks, other heavy trucks that are bringing framing materials and other materials, construction materials. And so the state and the condition of the access is a key consideration for the county.
Well, okay, well, Mr. President, in lieu
Well,
of hanging him up and us just standing in here spinning our wheels and taking time, I would like for him, engineers, whoever, to get with
Craig and the road
Craig and Road Department
part.
and get past that. And a lot of that'll be covered in there, the Adams Road part.
you
And-
think you can get all of that done?
So,
Set,
Brad,
set the public hearing for
Yeah,
February
my-
3rd.
my
I don't
suggestion
think
is
so,
gonna
but
be-
if he can, let's do it.
my suggestion is gonna be with respect to the next item on the planning commission agenda, which is to set your public hearings. This one is due to be set for public hearing on Monday.
Let's push that back to give him some more time.
So we have Mr. Anderson here. We can tell him that the public hearing on his request will not be set for February 3rd, and that's fine. That's notice to him as to when we're gonna set it. The issue is that we're gonna have to start the process again with Brian.
Yeah.
And do a separate publication on the new hearing date, subject to what the board comes up with as to an appropriate alternative hearing date. We'll have to run that back through, and we wanna make sure, have you gotten any calls, Brian?
No
Okay.
calls.
So we wanna make sure that we wanna leave the signs in place, but we do need to go back through our advertisement on whatever the hearing date is. I would suggest that we look at maybe the 1st March
Yeah,
to give us plenty of time.
yeah. First
I
of
don't
March
know
is not that far out
It's
there.
not.
A month will be here before you know it.
Anybody know what our
Third.
1st March is?
Probably be one of the ladies would know.
March the 3rd. So for purposes of notice to Mr. Anderson,
Yeah.
we are telling him that a public hearing will be set for March the 3rd at 9 a.m. this room, to consider the request. Okay, so Brian, if we'll do the planning commission at the end of February or the 1st of March, whichever it is.
Yes.
We'll do the planning commission, we can set it, at the planning commission at the end of February.
All right,
If that makes sense to everybody.
yes.
So,
Right.
Yeah.
Steve, we're in the new consideration, so we're gonna adjust.
We'll take it in the next step.
Yes, sir, in the
Okay.
next thing, and we're
Yeah.
gonna adjust our set public hearing to reflect March 3rd on this one, instead of February 3rd.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
thank you.
Does that make
all right,
sense?
y'all said Mike Harrison and Craig
Slade, Craig
Slade.
may have a card, I don't know. Mike, you got a card? Write down your phone number and give it to him.
Thank y'all.
Yes, sir.
Write down the number up here for Craig and, put it on there also. Thank you. Sorry, Mr. President. We can continue.
All right, we continue with Brian.
All right, our next item, Bobby Elmore, that's Trax LLC. is seeking a conditional use permit to mine 4 acres on Highway 25, just north of Cold Bluff Road. And this is a 78-acre parcel that is zoned A2. Here's an aerial view of the property. This is a view of the proposed mining area along with the ingress, egress. We have received the MDEQ 4-acre exempt permit. Here's a view of the property from the ingress, egress. And these are surrounding properties.
I assume MDOT has permitted that median cut, that crossover there, that exit?
We're in discussions with MDOT to finalize any, from all indications that I've received so far, it's not an issue to pull out in that median, but we are going through the proper channels with MDOT to assure that information is
That's
correct.
good. I highly suggest that if the board is of the mind to grant a conditional use on this one, that a condition be full and complete review by MDOT, making sure that all traffic safety issues have been addressed.
Right.
Yeah. That kind of
Hey,
scares me.
which one of y'all was called, referred to as Bubba Dirt?
That would be the name of the pit, but Brooks here works with Mr. Elmore, and it'll be Mr. Elmore's operation.
Okay. I talked to him,
Bubba is an operator.
Well,
that would
I
work.
talked to the person that responded to that a few months ago. I just wondered who I was talking to.
Yes, sir, Bubba, we've been doing business with Bubba, he's an operator with us over
Okay.
the last 3 years. We've
Yeah.
got a 660-acre surface mine in Madison County on
Yeah.
Highway 22.
Yeah,
We've been in business nearly 4 years now. Extremely good relationship with all of the local
The
government
county.
in the area with Madison County.
yeah.
We plan on extreme diligence as far as the ingress and egress accessing Highway 25. We'll have gravel drive coming in and out of there, proper erosion control.
That's good.
We handle a first-class operation.
You know, are you familiar with Mike Harrison, the road manager? You might ought to get, because you will be. He is some anal at times.
Hey, we
person.
respect that, we
Um,
respect that.
Y'all familiar with
Good
Hall
job,
Routes?
Mike. Absolutely, good job, Mike. Thank you.
Yeah.
But anyhow,
We're pretty aggressive about haul routes.
I have,
Absolutely, and we respect that, and we're in line with that vision
Okay.
as well.
I have gotten some calls. And I think the main thing is, are we gonna have some area of, well, there's not very many trees left out there. I don't want you to dig right beside the highway. You know?
Yes, sir.
And you've got a lot of land that you can back up and
Right.
start a buffer.
Yeah, it's kind of,
Start it.
It's a good piece off, Steve.
I see
You
it,
see the square,
Yeah.
around that green square?
yeah.
That's
This
gonna
is
be
a-
your mining area.
This is a 4-acre exempt permit, so it's a pretty small area.
So when you get to 4 acres, you're gonna get another 4?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
We
Hey,
don't
I don't
fully,
think they let them do that no more.
they will still allow that.
you move over a little bit.
You gotta,
Reclaim that
you gotta
one.
fully reclaim the first 4-acre before you would even start the process to get a new 4-acre.
Right.
And I think you'd have to repeat the whole local process each time.
That's correct. That's right.
So,
Yeah.
the other option would be, if the business plan would be to expand the operation to bigger than an exempt mine, then obviously we've gotta come through all of this
Yeah.
process
Yeah.
again.
DEQ.
We gotta get a full mining permit from
Right.
DEQ, a full stormwater permit from DEQ. In this particular case, with where the project is right now, DEQ allows us to develop our stormwater plan, and keep that on site. We've already got the plan developed. I'm the engineer for this project.
Yeah.
So you would be fully involved again through any process that was another 4-acre or an expansion of the site. And there's a lot of hoops to jump through if you go
Yeah.
bigger mines.
So what are your plans for the property after?
The plans for the property after, in this instance, would be a lake for recreational fishing. That's the ultimate goal that we're trying to achieve. for the property owner out there.
Oh, okay. I got it.
Just a nice spot he can go
Conduit.
and enjoy a fishing hole, and where he can take his grandkids and have a good time with them.
Close as it to your house.
That's the ultimate plan.
Oh, that's a
Well, that sounds good.
property.
And everybody in there is welcome to come fishing.
Right.
Get it up near
It's
the
gonna
county
be deep
line.
and it's gonna be nice.
Um,
All right, well, let's move on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Hey, can I, tell me a footage that I can repeat to people that call? How many feet off of, the right of way do you think that 4 acre exemption is?
Where that 4 acres sits is probably somewhere around
500?
800 to 1,000
800?
feet off of 25.
595 feet.
750, around 750 feet off of 25.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay,
You won't be able to hear excavators beeping from the road, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
We have no issue staying off of Highway 25 at what setback you guys determine is fair.
okay, thank
We're
you.
willing to comply with that.
That'll work.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Bless y'all. Thank you.
And we'll fully explore the rest of the MDOT approval.
Okay,
Right,
that's good.
Thank you.
all right. Ryan?
All right, Daniel Freeman is seeking a conditional use permit to place an accessory dwelling unit behind his future home at 1207 Shallow Road. This is a 5.8 acre parcel located in the Deer Acres subdivision. The property is zoned RE1. Here's an aerial view of the property. Mr. Freeman intends to build the accessory dwelling unit and the main dwelling at the same time. The accessory dwelling will be for his daughters returning home from school. He also owns lots 5 and 6 in Deer Acres and intends to construct permanent dwellings for his daughters in the future. We have received an approval letter from the developer for Mr. Freeman's request. This is a view of the property and surrounding properties. That's what we got. Now, I think Mr. Daniels here, if there's any questions for him.
Anybody got any questions for him?
My number one concern was to make sure that if there was gonna be any sort of pushback from the developer about the restrictive covenants, that we address that beforehand, and the developer's completely on board, so I don't see an issue with moving forward.
Okay,
Okay.
And my understanding is, Daniel, that, we're talking about some pretty healthy square footages on both the house and the accessory structure, is that correct? Yeah.
600 on the home and 1125 on the
Okay.
accessory.
Yeah, these are gonna be nice structures. As you guys know, what we typically do, in this case, is we would include a condition that the accessory structure, is available, and can be utilized for some period of time. We typically give about 2 years of a window to get the primary dwelling constructed and then have some other alternative. At the end of that period of time, we typically will require that any accessory structure that's a dwelling be reconditioned so that it's not a dwelling. And
Yeah.
we wanna be clear that it's not gonna be a rental, it's not gonna be a VRBO. And I think Mr. Freeman's been pretty clear and upfront with everybody, this is family, and he's trying to make sure that his kids have an opportunity to stay close. And I think all of us get that, don't we?
Well, in a few years, I have a place to go fishing.
how many,
Yeah. Right.
how many acres are each one of these?
5.5.
5.5 acres, and just to be comparing apples to apples, you said 600, but you meant 600,000. I assume not 600 square feet.
3,600.
3,600, okay.
3,600, yes, sir.
Okay, 3,600 square feet, all right.
All right.
Well,
Thank
let's move to somebody else's district.
Well, I don't think we're going to.
Steve Gaines,
I think we're staying in,
that cow
here,
got
Steve.
out,
All right, we got,
the bull jumped the fence.
Paul Hopper is seeking a request to rezone 119 acres off North Sand Hill Road and Midway Road. He is proposing to rezone the property from A2 to RE1. Here's an aerial view of the property. If approved, Mr. Hopper is seeking to subdivide the property into 21 lots ranging in size from 14 to 3 acres with an average lot size of 5.66 acres. Each lot will front the public road. Here's a view of the property. These are surrounding properties.
So what road's that on?
It's North Sand Hill and Midway.
Man, my buddy's dying.
What size square foot houses is he
Pretty sure this is,
wanting to put in?
that was his
Yeah,
line.
these are, I think, are minimum
Now his daughter's
2,400, or is it
Minimum
2,500?
2,500?
They don't need them buying snakes.
2,500
All of them got
minimum.
public road frontage.
Call him
Uh,
down and just
Paul,
get out of this.
we met with Paul a few weeks ago, and I think Paul's got a clear understanding about the other issues that we typically would talk about, has to do with the right of way and the utility easement and all that kind of stuff, and so there's a good understanding on that. Paul had a proposal that had a few more lots, and by virtue of wanting to maintain a minimum lot size of at least 3 acres, we went back and revisited that, and Paul was able to carve that back from a few more down to 21 total lots. So we've got a minimum of 3 acre lots in this proposed development. So this looks like typical development in Steve's district, large lots, converting from more of an agricultural use to more of a residential use. It's a hot market up there, and so my review of it is that it fits with what the development plan has been.
So what square footage?
2,400.
Minimum 2,500.
2,500, my bad.
And they'll probably be larger than that. Our history is that we set a minimum, but the vast majority of residential construction like this, new residential construction in Steve's district, where it's a school district that's on fire, we see some pretty healthy construction activity. So I expect this to be similar.
Well, good. Steve, you good with it?
Yeah, he's good.
All right, let's move on. All right, we'll move on.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Sorry, guys, one of my best friends is dying. I'm sorry. Says no need to pick up stakes.
Yep, well. Let's move on.
All right.
We'll continue on with the Steve Gaines show. You got one more.
All right, our last item, PIC Land Development is seeking to rezone 2 parcels on Holly Bush Road from A2 to RE1. The 2 parcels are a combined 58.5 acres. This is an aerial view of the property. If approved, they plan to subdivide the property into 4 lots, with the smallest lot being 2 acres. The development will be named Spectrum Acres and is used to celebrate, support, and acknowledge that all individuals currently buying lots from the developer have children that are on the autism spectrum. Here's a view of the property. And surrounding properties.
That how they proposed looks kinda jacked up. You say 4 lots were on there?
Yes, sir, there's 4 lots. Yeah, there's a house that's already on the, property. Scott's here to answer any questions.
Scott, would you like to come forward?
This is the last one on me.
Mm-hmm.
Holly Bush Road.
So where's the access point?
See it at the top, I mean, at the right side. I guess I'm
That's a,
looking at it west
I'm
side.
gonna call it a road, but let's call it a nice driveway. My house, so we plan on keeping 48.5 acres approximately, so that's basically where we're building our house right now, our barn dominium. And so then everything, even that dotted line, that's all pasture in the back. That's 40 acres right there in the top part of it. And
Our-
then, does that make sense so far?
So
And then
there's gonna be one driveway accessing these 4
No, sir.
Yeah,
Okay.
No, sir, the two on the bottom, the south end, Brad,
Oh, yeah.
those two lots, those
Uh-huh.
are gonna be direct frontage on Hollywood.
I got you, okay.
So you're only talking about a basically what will amount to a shared access for two lots. The larger lot behind the front two. How many acres is that, Scott?
The middle one,
The middle lot.
it's like 5.85.
Five and a half acres. And then the back lot, the 40 plus that Scott's keeping will be pasture and, not subject to subdividing unless the board authorizes such. And, I mean, it could be subdivided later, but only with board authorization,
Yeah.
so.
What about I know we covered on yours, the one that's 5.5 acres that will be using the drive that you use.
Correct.
What kind of square footage are you expecting on that house?
Redeem has mentioned somewhere between.
Redeem, that
Redeem,
has
yeah.
the place on Holly Bush?
Has a place on Baker.
I mean, on Baker, yeah.
That's right. He's mentioned somewhere between 5,500
Yeah,
to 6,000
I
square feet. Cause he's
thought it-
gonna have he has a child that's
Yeah,
gonna.
right,
live
just
here
like,
forever.
yep. Work with, just like we told Mr. Anderson, work with these two guys, and then we'll handle it as soon as we can, but it may not make it Monday, I don't know.
Well, this one's set for the 14th.
14th, okay, all right, sorry, I didn't look at that,
And just to,
all right.
yeah, so and just for clarity here, Redeem is actually buying the 3 acre
Yeah,
lot on the
that's
east side
right.
as well for
Yep.
potential selling it to his kids or giving it to his
Yep.
kids or whatever. So it's very likely that there really won't be but one access to Holly Bush.
Yep,
Which is that road, because we're
Yep.
gonna, the guy
Yep.
to the left, the 2 acre lot, he can get to
He'll
Holly
have a
Bush from his
driveway.
lot,
He'll
but
have a
we're gonna
driveway.
allow him to use our,
yeah,
if he wants to. Yeah.
okay.
So
All right.
traffic should be minimal.
Well, just get it drafted up with our lawyer guy, and, we've been talking about this for, it seems like 2 or 3 years.
That's about right, yeah.
But,
The first time I was actually thinking about developing it.
yeah,
And then I realized how much it was gonna cost to develop it.
Right.
And then I would be worth, I would just have like maybe 5 acres, and I didn't wanna have just 5 acres, so,
Yeah.
anyway.
yeah,
So, yeah,
Okay.
we're good to go.
all right,
Any
thank you.
questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
when you set the public
Who
hearing.
is it?
Brian, we'll go ahead and set. Gentlemen, let me walk us through the set public hearing section, if I may, Mr. President. I don't mean to step on your authority here, but I was going to
Right.
remind you, the first one, if we can take that separately, that would be to set that hearing for March 3 instead of February 3. And so we would just need a motion to set the first one under set public hearings for March 3 at 9 a.m.
I'll make a motion to set.
Second, okay.
Brad made a motion, Scott seconded the motion. Any further discussion? All in favor? Motion carries.
And then number 2, I'll make a motion to set it for February 3rd.
Second,
Brad made a motion, Steve seconded the motion. Any further discussion? All in favor?
And my next motion will be
Motion
set
carried.
3, 4, and 5 for February 14th.
Second.
Brad made a motion to set 3, 4, and 5 for February 14th. Scott seconded the motion. Any further discussion? All in favor? Motion carries.
Mr. President, the first item on nuisance considerations would be item 1, First Financial Bank, nuisance property at 565 Pisgah Road, District 4 property. I'm going to ask Brian to demonstrate with the photos. That public hearing is open. I'll ask for anyone associated with or representing First Financial Bank to be prepared to come forward and address the board.
We received a complaint for weeds in an abandoned structure on October 23rd, 2024.
oh, this is,
All right, this is the photo that was taken of the property in October. And these are the photos taken yesterday. Certified letter was received, but no contact has been made.
I'll call you.
All right, let me know.
What's wrong with it? Oh, it's overgrown.
Yeah, overgrown weeds and abandoned structure.
Oh, abandoned, I didn't hear that part.
Brian, is it our understanding, have we done any title work, that we understand how First Financial Bank is responsible? Sounds like a foreclosure.
Yeah, it's a foreclosure.
All right. Do we have good scholarship on, you got an actual substitute trustee's deed into the bank, that type of thing? Do we know what the title situation is?
What do you have? We've got a deed of trust here, Jerry Lane Gar,
Yeah.
and the grantee is First Financial Bank.
So that's, I mean, it's a deed of trust.
Well, it looks
So,
like they cleaned it up a little
so-
bit, don't it, or?
So is the property livable?
We don't know, I don't reckon.
Well, I mean,
They
just
had-
because somebody's not living in a house doesn't necessarily make it a nuisance.
Well, I
does
guess
it?
the first picture showed it growed up. This
Yeah.
one, that was back probably during in the summer,
During the summer.
fall or something.
This one was October.
Is this just winter kill? I mean, nobody's actually been out there and done
Doesn't look
anything,
like it.
Is that right? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just,
Alright.
Yeah, like I said, we haven't received any,
let me walk you guys through. What the issue here is, as we stand here right now, we're not 100% sure who the owner of the property is. If we think that it's in a state of foreclosure process, but until there's a substitute trustee's deed, a completion of the foreclosure, there's not a transfer of title. So we've got to address that. We may or may not have the right parties in front of us. That's not y'all. It's just sometimes we move through this process because we'll get somebody's attention and they'll revise the condition of the property. You won't have to worry about all these technical things. So it's not a waste of time. It's exactly the way we need to do it. And it's an efficient way to do it as well. But we still need to know before we take official action, before I let y'all declare it a nuisance and route it up to justice court, did we get the right people in front of us first? I don't want to haphazardly move forward and not have good jurisdiction.
So we should probably call the bank, they'll come cut it.
I would think that somebody at the bank, if they're intending to foreclose, they can go ahead and assign somebody responsibility to get it cleaned up to our specs.
I think
We
do a
don't
little
ask a lot.
further investigation, you can kind of see what we need to do on that.
With
No action taken.
no action, will reflect that no action is taken, that we will
Right.
proceed to revisit this once we know the state and condition of the title.
Okay.
So, Brian, if you'll remind me to check title
yes, sir.
on that one, we'll get an answer. Mr. President, the record will reflect no action taken on item 1 under nuisance considerations. Item 2 would be the Property Group LLC, nuisance property at 1149 O'Fannin Road, this is District 2 property. We're gonna open that public hearing. I'm gonna ask Brian to demonstrate with the photos. I'll ask that anybody affiliated with or representing the Property Group LLC be prepared to come forward and address the board.
Okay, we initially received a complaint of grass, rubbish, and debris and parking needed repair on July 1st, 2024. These are the photos that were taken at that time. The nuisance hearing was held on August 29th. The property manager spoke on behalf of the conditions of the parking lot and stated that they were under contract with a construction company to repair the parking lot. These are the pictures taken on Friday, January the 3rd, 2025, to follow up on the conditions of the parking lot.
Well, I know I've seen this 3 or 4 times.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
The last time we were talking about this, it was a review hearing, and we invited the parties to come and speak at the review hearing. That's one step short of an official nuisance consideration.
Right.
Give them an opportunity to kind of update the board and talk about their plan and
Looks like
maybe
they're trashing it up again too.
explain why.
The
you know,
contract.
If they were under contract,
contractor
what's the
didn't
delay,
pay
what's the holdup? So we were giving them every opportunity to come and address the situation with the board, and it is an eyesore, as you can see. And so now we are in a nuisance hearing. Is anybody here on behalf of Property Group LLC? Mr. President, I don't see anybody here to speak on that matter. This time it'd be appropriate for us to consider the next step, which in my opinion needs to be a reference up to Justice Court.
Have you talked to anybody
I went through there yesterday, they cut that retention pond, but there's actually more damage to the parking lot than there was when this, Brian, would you remind me, what was the date you said that, was that August 29th?
July
The first.
July, the notices went out. They came,
No, they came
July
here in
first is
July.
when they came to the,
July one.
July 1.
So we probably met a couple days after that.
yeah.
Generally, that's how it goes.
August 29th.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. So we have pictures from
Because
August
we had, it
29th?
was we had it as a review, and
Okay.
then we set that for the next
I
meeting.
think the statement that you heard that we are under contract
Yeah.
was in August.
Mhm,
I
correct.
think that's right.
We had
But
plenty of time.
nonetheless,
There's a
we're
No,
with the better part of 5 months now, and no activity appears to have been taken. So I think it's appropriate, Scott, to go ahead and
Declare it a nuisance.
have a motion to
That is
declare
my
the nuisance
motion, to declare the nuisance.
refer to justice court.
Move it to justice.
Second.
All right, Scott declared a motion to nuisance. Brad seconded the motion. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Yeah, and
Motion carried.
Mr. President, let's let the record reflect on that one, that the board's declaration is not just like nuisance under state law. That particular issue right there is also a violation of our International Property Maintenance Code. We enforce the IPMC as well as state law with respect to nuisance. This issue violates multiple issues for us, so I want the record to reflect that your motion, Scott, is both that it's a nuisance under state law and it's a violation of International Property Maintenance Code. Item 3, if we're prepared to move forward, we'll close that public hearing on property group. Item 3 is the Mary Catherine Evans Estate nuisance property review. This is a review, 730 North Church Street. This is District 1 property. We'll open that public hearing. Brian's going to demonstrate with the photos. I'll ask anyone who is here on behalf of Mary Catherine Evans Estate to be prepared to address the board.
We received a call regarding an individual living in the attic of a severely damaged home with no power and significant structural damage. Multiple fire department inspections from the city of Richland and the city of Florence Fire confirm uninhabitable conditions. Several examples were living room floor was collapsed, ceiling joists above were broken and there was a risk of them falling in, significant gaps in the flooring, tree damage left portions of the roof open, improper wood stove installation, chimney vent stops in the attic, and it's basically just venting into the attic, and not through the roof, and several other life and safety concerns. These are the photos we received from James Hempfield with the Florence Fire Department and Kevin Grantham with the Richland Fire Department. Per their report, an individual was found asleep in the attic with a bed and wood stove and no ventilation. The individual claimed to be repairing the house. He claimed to be repairing the house slowly, and the structure is only used for part-time occupancy. And he stays with other family members when not there. We do have Hunter Squires, our operations coordinator. He's present today if you have any questions.
Is anyone here on this matter to speak?
Don't look like there was a meter in the house, is there?
No, it don't look like one's on the side of the house either.
Right.
Maybe.
Hunter, was it hit by a tree? Is that the damage that we're
Yeah.
seeing? I mean, I see the tree that's fallen, but is that?
Yes, sir. That's actually a Google Maps image that was taken sometime in 2024. The tree has been since cut and pieced. It is in the backyard. It's no longer in the house. When we were told from Energy that there is power going to the house, but I believe there is not a meter base on the side of the house. There's no power going in the house. Multiple firefighters, when they got there, said that the report was there was nobody in the house. It seemed to be vacant. Well, when they made entry, they found a foot sticking out from the attic space, and they attempted to wake him up. He finally woke up, and they were able to get him out. But yes, sir, that's all we know at this time. I was not able to go inside the structure. Once all the firefighters and police officers left, I I really had no authority to go back inside the house once I got there.
So we're ventilating the living area of the house directly into the attic, and we're living in the attic with a secondary heater in the attic?
So I don't believe there is a secondary heater. The stove pipe coming from the wood burning stove is going directly into the attic and venting out of that hole.
So he didn't have any heat?
No, sir. That was his heat. Yes, sir. And from what we were.
He go downstairs and throws a log on the.
Okay. All right.
Yes, sir. From what we were told, he was up there maybe doing some work and fell asleep. Yes, sir.
Say, why sleep upstairs when you sleep downstairs?
From what the statements of the firefighters, the downstairs living quarters is not good.
It's probably water and mold. And
Yes, sir. I would believe so. They did say the floor was collapsing when they started going in there.
Well, I think
Well, that just needs to be condemned, right? I mean, yes.
So do you see what you want to do?
yeah, I make a motion to, condemn it.
We can declare it a public nuisance. It is a public nuisance. In addition to being an eyesore, it's dangerous, it's uninhabitable. And so my suggestion is that we refer it up to Justice Court for a court order that condemns the structure. That way it takes the pressure off of us making that call. Let's give whoever represents this entity an opportunity to address what their plan is to rehab this property if possible. They can address that to the court, and if the court's not satisfied, then we've done what we can to make sure that it is not habitable.
All right, I'll second Sid's motion.
I made a motion, Brad seconded the motion to condemn it and send it to court order. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And I don't have an issue, once, if somebody wants to fix the property up, or get it back in livable condition.
They just can't live in
They
it.
just
Right.
can't be
at the
living
same
in it.
time.
Right, that's right. They just can't be living in it now, but, they,
The next nuisance here.
Yeah, this is the
Yes.
next one.
All three,
I'm gonna have a tough time with that.
take them away.
Orphans.
Weeds.
Yeah, weeds. Condemn.
all right,
You need to adjourn now.
need a motion to adjourn. The next meeting will be February 27th.
You make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Brad made a motion, Jay seconded the motion. Any further discussion?
We'll get you in the.
We're not in our regular meeting now.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now, I would like to, call to order, the board meeting, for January 3rd. And I would like to say, Steve Gaines, I don't know if y'all was where he got up and left. He had a friend that was passing away, and I asked him to come see him, so that's why, so we need to have a little thought and prayer for Steve, and yeah, but that is why he left,
Thank you, Sid.
yeah.
Mr. President, if I may address the board, this is just a reminder for me and for anybody else that's here. This board on March the 4th of last year adopted decorum rules. This new board came in January of last year, and so we adopted a formalized set of decorum rules. I wanted to mention those. I think it's helpful for us. We're right now in a new year for this board, and so it might be helpful for us to remind ourselves about our decorum rules and why we have those for our board meetings. So I'll walk through those. Persons that are intending to address the Board of Supervisors during public comment of any board meeting must sign in at the security kiosk in the lobby or with our executive assistant to the Board of Supervisors prior to the meeting. We just want a roster of who's going to be speaking publicly in our meetings. Our speakers are given a maximum of 3 minutes to address the board with any comments. At the discretion of the board president, they can be afforded additional time up to 5 minutes. The board does not receive, this is important, the board does not receive questions during public comment. Sometimes there's confusion about that. Recognized speakers are to direct their comments to the Board of Supervisors. We need to hear comments. That's what this is, a time to receive comments from our citizens. Persons that are recognized to speak in public comment will direct all comments to the board, and no comments should be directed to persons other than the Board of Supervisors. We give priority to the citizens of Rankin County to address their Board of Supervisors in public comment. So persons who are not citizens of Rankin County may be recognized to speak in the discretion of the board president, with the understanding that the board may, in its discretion, close the public comment period before all persons wishing to speak have been recognized. And this is in recognition that the supervisors may need to move on to other matters of county business. Persons who exhibit disruptive behavior or interrupt any others engaged in public comment will be required to exit the boardroom. And I think this one is important and sometimes it gets overlooked. Comments that we receive need to be related to matters that are on our agenda for consideration or to matters that are within the legal jurisdiction of the Board of Supervisors to address. That's important for us. If you're being forced to listen to comments that are on matters that you have nothing to do with or have no authority to address, we're wasting time. And so I just wanted to remind all of us that these are our decorum rules, and this is what we typically would like to see enforced anytime that we open up for public comment. And with that, Mr. President, we can move on.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll start with our public comments. We have anybody here like to come up and speak? Okay.
Do we have anybody signed up?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you would, just state your name and address for the record when you get up to the podium.
Good morning.
My name is Emily Dawn Escolas. I am from actually Petal. I've been working here in Rankin County, unfortunately for too long. I'm a national advocate, and so I am a first responder for victims of injustice. And so here, my name's Emily Dawn Escolas, and here we have Austin Stubblefield.
And your address?
My address?
Yes.
Is 423 Trussell Road, Petal, Mississippi. I'm actually a mayoral candidate right now for the city of Petal. And so when I met Austin, it was just, it's just been so alarming. Let me just quickly pass these out for you.
Hold on. Bring those over here.
Here you go.
Hold on just a second. Let me address something to the board right quick. Ms. Escolas contacted our administrative staff and asked for permission to address the board with public comment. She was asked nicely, what do you intend to address? Ms. Escolas is not a Rankin County resident. And so it was important to us to understand what is this about? What do you intend to address the board? You're not a Rankin County resident. What should we expect? And so we were told, Samantha remind me, I believe you were told that she intended to speak on a matter of a public emergency or an emergency situation that involves the court system in Rankin County.
Yes.
Okay, so that's what I am expecting Ms. Escolas to address the board, something to do with a emergency situation in the court system in Rankin County, okay? So I am now looking at what you're intending to send to the board, to have the board look at. It's some kind of photos
That's
and
Josh
some kind of,
McCory.
I understand who that is. Some kind of photos and some kind of, it looks like some type of newspaper article of some time, juvenile justice information exchange. I don't know. I'm not familiar with that organization. I don't know what this is, but it appears to be some sort of newsprint article from about 6.5 years ago. And a photograph that appears to depict our former Justice Court judge, who is now our youth court judge, and some other gentleman in a photo. If the board's okay, I'll hand these out. Scolas, I took up
Small print.
a good bit of your time. So the clock has been
Started.
suspended. You'll need to keep your comments to about 3 minutes.
Go ahead.
And I'm listening for jurisdiction, I'm listening for, one more set. All right. I'm listening for how this board has any legal jurisdiction or any authority to address whatever comments may be here. I'm listening for that. That's to be determined.
Okay, the article that I sent you, that I have passed out, that's a precedent in Rankin County where they shut down the entire youth court program here because people were getting their kids taken away wrongly, especially because they did not have the ability to pay fines, things like that. Well, this is a precedent in Rankin County where the judge recused and resigned, where the entire youth court was shut down. This article is from 2017. So fast forward to now. Well, and the other picture you have is Josh McQuarrie. That's Cecil McQuarrie's son, obviously a judge here. And that is Nathaniel Dave Knight. Okay?
Ms. Escolas, can I interrupt, please?
Yes.
Gentlemen, the reference to shutting down a youth court is the former City of Pearl Youth Court that has not existed as a youth court for the better part of 7 years. Jay, when did that happen? At least 7 years ago, the City of Pearl Youth Court, which is what Ms. Escolas is talking about, does not exist.
It's not even under.
All of the operations of what was the former City of Pearl, not Rankin County, City of Pearl Youth Court no longer exists. It is now housed, along with every other municipality in Rankin County, under the auspices of our county youth court system. It's now folded in. And so whatever issues may be relevant as it relates to this article about shutting down the City of Pearl Youth Court have no relevance whatsoever to what Rankin County Youth Court is doing or what this Board of Supervisors is doing. That may have been, Ms. Escolas may have been confused about that structure and that dramatic change in the way things are done. That youth court no longer exists.
Do you understand what he's saying? That
I do, and I understand that was roped into Rankin County. So here we are, and it is relevant, to see where we've been and why we are where we are.
I think we got one of the best youth court systems in.
Well, unfortunately, in Austin's case, I'm not saying that we don't hear, but in Austin's case, okay, his daughter has been taken from him. He has not seen his daughter in how many days, Austin?
272.
272 days.
Where does Mr. Austin live?
He's a Rankin County resident.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why we're here today. And he's been roped up in the Chancery Court with his daughter, and unfortunately there's conflicts of interest. So his father-in-law is Nathaniel Dave Knight, former law enforcement and Bureau of Narcotics. He was fired from the Bureau of Narcotics from what I'm gathering. But he broke into their home in May of 2024 and forced a gun to fire, Austin's gun, tried to steal his gun from him and fired 2 rounds at least in front of his child, which instead of being a victim of a violent crime, because Dave Knight is former law enforcement here in Rankin County, it was flipped, and Austin was really shown as to be the aggressor in the situation as Chancery Court, and it was used to take his daughter. But what we have to talk about here is the conflicts of interest with this man. So, as you see in the picture,
I don't think this is the place.
Yeah, this
to do
is
it
not the
with us.
forum.
I mean, we appreciate you coming and all that, but I think you're just, you speaking to the wrong folks.
Absolutely. This board has no jurisdiction over a case that is pending in the Rankin County Youth Court or the Rankin County Youth Court system. This board has no authority to address facts and circumstances within a case that's pending in that court. If this was a question, gentlemen, about the structure of the court, the funding of the court, the courthouse that we have provided to our youth court system, the staffing requirements, the compensation or budget associated with that, that is a legal jurisdiction that this board can address. Not that it would or that it should, but it can. But individual court cases that originated within the youth court system are not the purview of this board, and we're wasting our time to talk about that. So I would ask Ms. Escalus to refrain from comments about an individual court case and comment, if at all, if there's anything to say about the structure of our court, the budget of our court, the staffing of our court, the ancillary processes that go with our court, the parking lot. Do we do a good job of maintaining the facility? Does the court feel like it has everything it needs at its disposal to dispense justice? Is our detention facility adequate? Is it compliant? Does it meet federal requirements? Those are the kinds of things that this board needs to hear about, if at all.
I think his attorney needs to be speaking to whoever he needs to speak to.
100%.
Well, it's a staffing
up with the
issue.
court.
It's a staffing issue with the court, because everyone's a conflicts of interest in this case, and they're related, they went to high school together, and that's what I'm trying to tell you. That affects every case. If nobody in here can get a fair trial because everybody's related and it's already rigged before you walk in, that's a declaration of public safety right there.
Yeah. Ms. Escalus
That's what
has given
something he
her
should-
opinion about some conflict of interest.
And Brian
internal.
Bailey has been made aware of
I'm
this.
sorry, we're not gonna talk about anybody else in this court. We do not disparage any county employee in our public comment, ever. You do not do it. That's why we wanna know, what are you gonna talk about when you get up here? So, I've heard enough. If you guys have heard enough.
Who does
All right,
have
thank you.
jurisdiction to handle this?
We don't take questions. Thank you for your time.
Does anyone
All right.
else like to speak?
I believe that's all we got under public comments.
FYI, gentlemen, this is what they do. This is what this organization does, and that lady in particular, it's a show. He was videotaping because they intend to broadcast it on social media. It's a nonprofit entity that operates out of the Hattiesburg area. They take donations. They try to gin up support for donations and that type thing. She enjoys and employs a strategy of creating confusion and hysteria where she can, and that's why I wanted to kind of address this and get on top of it as fast as I could and set our decorum rules. I don't typically, well, maybe I do, but most of the time, I don't behave aggressively like that. But where it's clear and plain to me that this is not an interest of justice in any way, then it's a waste of our time, and I think it's an abuse of the good favor that you guys provide to a community to come talk to you about matters that you can address. I just don't like somebody helping themselves to your good favor for purposes that don't have anything to do with the citizens of Rankin County.
Miss Stacy McNich might can get us back on track.
Right, come on up, Miss.
Stacy, I'm in rare form. Behave.
Look, no hostility here. Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Item A, I'm requesting to void the tax bill for the PIN number 85762 and issue a new bill reflecting a special assessment on this property.
Motion to approve. Second.
Jay made a motion, Scott seconded the motion. Any further discussion? All in favor? Motion carries.
Item B, a request to refund amount of special assessment on PIN number 63027. This special assessment was to be removed in 2020.
Motion.
Second.
Scott made a motion, Brad seconded the motion. Any further discussion? All in favor? Motion carries.
Item C, I'm requesting to generate a new tax statement for PIN number 87004. This parcel was deleted in error for the 2024 tax year and should have received a bill.
Motion approved.
Yes. Brad made a motion, Jay seconded the motion. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
D, I'm requesting to void tax bill for PIN 87105 and request the tax collector to void the 2024 tax bill. This is an exempt parcel.
Motion.
I second that motion.
I think we should have one board meeting where we don't take any money off the books.
I'll try.
I'll second it.
Just snorted, I'm sorry.
All right. Scott made a motion, I second the motion. Any further discussion? Sounds like Jay did have a little discussion. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
It was already taken off. We just tried to add it back, so. Item E, the authority to pay hotel fees in the amount of $625 for Jeremy Bertucci and $496.48 for myself for the IAAO 600 course, and that's February 23rd through 28th in Starkville.
Looks like he's staying in a nicer hotel than you, or just looking at?
He's actually staying one extra night. I'm leaving early.
Okay, I was just looking at the money difference there.
If you must know.
Okay. Thank you. We got a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Jay made a motion, Scott seconded the motion. Any further discussion? All in favor? Motion carries.
And final item, I'm requesting authority to pay the registration fees in the amount of $408 for Brent Smith to attend the USPAP certification that's required.
Motion approved.
Second.
Brad made a motion, Scott seconded the motion. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. McNish. Mr. Slade, you
Yes,
get
sir,
to come
gentlemen.
back.
I'm gonna try to get through this as quickly as possible. First item under my section is consideration of potential action to authorize the board president to sign an MOU. This will be between the county and the city of Brandon for their licensed use of those two parcels that are listed there. In exchange for the city's agreement that the Brandon mayor will not seek closure of the public railroad crossing at Eastmark Drive, by which the county accesses its 40 acres of property needed for public services. That MOU clearly spells out the agreement.
Make a motion approved.
Second.
Brad made a motion, Scott seconded the motion. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carried.
Item B, interestingly enough, gentlemen, it's about the youth court, and our previous public comment speaker should probably be here to hear this. It's acknowledgement of a court order that we've received from our youth court judge that requires the county to enter into a contract to provide what's known as guardian ad litem services. The two guardians ad litem are Linda Martin and Destiny Toon. We would be under contract with these two ladies who will serve as independent contractors. They will be 1099 independent contractors, and they will provide guardian ad litem services beginning February 1, 2025, and continuing until further order of the court. The cost of the guardian ad litem services occasioned by the order will be in accordance with the terms of the court's order, and will be borne in full by Rankin County pursuant to that code section that's there that requires guardians ad litem for certain youth court matters. And this is also a uniform rule of youth court practice requirement as well. So we have to provide the services, and up to this point, those services have been being provided by a nonprofit entity that no longer will exist effective February 1. Court orders resulting from this particular issue was necessitated by the elimination of private funding for guardian ad litem costs at the end of this January, and efforts are being undertaken to locate and secure an alternative funding source for these positions. So the youth court is actively looking for a way to get these positions paid so that the county will not be required to pay for these positions. If there are no questions, we will simply comply with the court order, and I need to acknowledge that we've received it and we will comply, Mr. President.
You need that form of a motion?
Yes, please.
So moved.
Second the acknowledgement.
Scott made a motion, Jay seconded the acknowledgement. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Thank you,
Motion
gentlemen.
carries.
That keeps us in compliance with federal law, and arguments that something's wrong are unfair about our youth court system can go by the wayside when we have independent people like guardians ad litem who are appointed to look out for the best interest of minor children. So, gentlemen, let me just say for the record, our youth court system is well-run, well-staffed, well-recognized, thought very highly of, held up as an example for all other youth court systems in the state of Mississippi. I'll put our youth court system, and the United States, I'll put our youth court system up against anybody, anywhere. Okay, that was free. Item C, authority to amend the
Hear
agreement.
that minute was free.
Right, I bet it wasn't, but well, I'm sure the clock's ticking.
Yeah, y'all are all paying for it, right?
Yeah.
Authority to amend agreement between Rankin County and Region 8 Mental Health Services. This will provide an appointment for psychiatric review of litigants in guardianship, conservatorship, or commitment proceedings in Chancery Court, and to provide for county payment of those services in an amount not to exceed $400 per appointment or review. We've got to amend that agreement with Region 8 if Region 8 is willing to do so. Otherwise, this is going to be in the form of a Chancery Court order that will order us to pay. So we're trying to work through Region 8, which is an agreement we already have in place that you guys approved a couple of years ago.
So this is gonna be on top of the annual budget we give them?
No, sir. This is a pass-through cost that Region 8 takes on the responsibility to assist us with, Jay. We pay for the services. Region 8 helps us to find medical providers who are qualified to complete these services.
Okay.
This is an extra agreement that Region 8 does not charge us for. They include that under their budget that you already have in place. The providers have to be paid for rendering the service, if that makes sense. And we're not in a position, the county staff's not in a position to work with, or who do we call? Who is appropriate to provide that service? So we asked Region 8 to help us with that, and to this point, they've been very helpful to find providers who qualify and that are acceptable to the Chancery Court, but we've got to adjust the amount of pay that we pay for that because providers don't want to be limited to the small amount that's in the current agreement, and we have to amend the agreement to allow for an adequate payment to get the required services. I hope that makes sense. Yeah. If Region 8 for some reason is not in a position to continue, we may have to revisit how we do this, but this will give us the pathway to do it without having to come back to you. So I just need a motion to authorize the amended agreement with Region 8 for mental health services.
Make a motion approved.
I second it. Brad made a motion, I second the motion. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
The next item is another one of these strange things that's been visited upon us. This is discussion of a potential action to authorize the continuation of county payment for salaries, fringe, and benefits to personnel employed by the Rankin County Youth Court whose positions may or may not be impacted by a presidential executive order 14-151 that was executed and made effective on January the 20th of this year, invoking a temporary suspension of federal grant funding for federal grant programs. Gentlemen, a very healthy portion of your youth court budget is funded by the federal government through grants. Many of the employees of the youth court system are paid compensation that is reimbursed to the county by federal grant funding. That executive order, which placed a temporary suspension on federal grant funding, affects our youth court setup, and there was concern over whether or not certain of the positions at the youth court were going to be allowed to continue and under what circumstances. And so this will simply allow for us to kind of weather out this confusion that has resulted from that executive order and some litigation that has been spurred as a result of that. We think that's all going to get resolved, but in the interim, this would be a temporary, roughly 90-day authority that will allow the administrative side of the house to be able to continue making our compensation payments to our youth court staffers who are paid from federal grant funds. We're going to keep paying them their compensation. They're going to continue to deliver their services. They're going to continue to be employed. and that at some point, all of that expense will be reimbursed from federal funding that will no longer be suspended.
Well, I mean, didn't they go back and unsuspend that?
Yeah.
Rescind the order?
Do you, I don't know how much information y'all want.
Well, no, that's
So I do wanna put a cap on it. I don't
We-
want this open-ended.
It expires unless extended at the end of April.
So if they
This
don't
April.
have something done by April, then
Then you get to revisit every agreement that we have, that this board has ever approved as it relates to grant funds that are received by the youth court. Every single one of those that I've had an opportunity to review has language inserted in it that makes it clear. If there is no grant funding, there is no obligation on the county to do anything. So it's got to be resolved in order for us to do what we're doing, because eventually you're gonna be presented, let's just say that executive order stands and that a federal court, probably the U.S. Supreme Court, states that the president has the authority to suspend already appropriated federal funding, which I don't think he does. But if the Supreme Court says that funding is gonna be cut off unless Congress does something about that. It's gonna be cut off, and your obligation to continue funding those positions, expecting to be reimbursed, will no longer exist. And something will have to be done to address what are those positions going to do, how is that staffing gonna be arranged? Is the programming that is currently available gonna continue to be available?
so I want a list of individuals and the amount of money is paid.
We have that, don't we?
Okay.
We'll get it to you. It's about, what, seven or eight probably positions? Yeah.
Just email it to me.
So this is temporary. It expires by its terms in April unless extended, Jay. And I'm anticipating that this is gonna all get sorted out, and the suspension is gonna be lifted, and that funding, that there may be some funding out there somewhere in the federal system. I don't think it's gonna impact our youth court operations. It'll be something else.
Will y'all be up there in March, so y'all
Yes,
go
sir.
by and speak to them?
That's right. Thank you, Brad. No pressure. So I would just need a motion to authorize item D, and to implement item D.
Motion approved.
Second.
Jay made a motion, Scott seconded the motion. Any further discussion? All in favor? Motion carries.
Gentlemen, I've got multiple items in executive session that we're gonna need to talk about, litigation, personnel.
I make a motion to discuss the need for executive session.
Second.
Jay made a motion for executive session for the need. Brad seconded it. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Now I need a motion to go
What
into
are we going in
executive.
for?
Litigation, personnel, probably
Land acquisition.
acquisition of real property as
Aye.
multiple items.
I make a motion to go into executive session for those reasons.
Jay made a motion to go into executive discussion. Brad seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.